Welcome back. Like I said in my lower body video, in my journey of putting on 25 kilos of lean muscle from the ages of 18 to 22, I was constantly pushing the boundaries on what weights I could lift so that I was maintaining progressive overload every single session and smashing PBs as often as I could. In doing so, you've got to find the sweet spot of what weights you can lift before your form starts to break down and then your risk of injury starts to increase. This meant that at some points during this 4-year period, I landed on the wrong side of this limit, and so I had a few injuries and niggles. The majority of my upper body ones were in my pec and delts. Today I'm going to show you my upper body warm up and prehab routine that I do before every single session, whether it be a push or a pull session. So I do this for 3 major purposes. Point number 1 is target joint warm-ups. You want to make sure that the target joints that you're going to be using are completely warmed up and lubricated before you get started, so they don't get any surprises once you start the actual workout. Point number 2 is you want the target muscles to be activated, and you want this for a twofold reason. The first of which is you want the muscles to be nice and warmed up so they're not going to ping and you're not going to pull a muscle once you start. And the second reason is once you actually activate and pre-activate these muscles going into a workout and get the blood flow in the area, you're actually going to be stronger once you go into your working sets. Point number 3 is overall prehab and mobility. So doing these on a regular basis a few times a week, it's going to strengthen those stability muscles that wouldn't otherwise be worked. I'm going to touch on this a bit later on, but a great example of this is the rotator cuffs. They're a stabilization muscle that aren't usually worked, but if you don't look after them, they're not going to look after you. So before we get started, it's worth mentioning I always do my full spine warm up as seen in the lower body video, and if I can work out how, I'm going to put that here or here, so go and watch that after. I'll also link that video in the description as well. Then once I've done that, I'll jump into the upper body stuff. So let's go through it now. So starting off with some arm swings, I'm just swinging my arms forwards and backwards, 10 rotations backwards followed by 10 rotations forwards, and this is just going to completely loosen off the shoulder, start to flood the arms with some blood, and you'll feel your shoulder feel nice and loose and ready to go after you've done this. Then I'll move into some side to side arm swings again for the same function, then into some lateral raises, start to get some blood in the lateral delts, before I go into some behind the neck pressing. So getting my elbows as far back as possible and then just pressing up and bringing it down again. And then I'll go into some internal and external rotations of the shoulder. So bringing it up, coming down, internally rotating, externally rotating, and that's going to be working your rotator cuffs, which are the shoulder muscle that I mentioned earlier. They're a stability muscle that don't get looked at unless you look after them doing exercises like this. Then I'll drop down with my elbow to my side and then again working on the rotator cuffs, internally rotate and externally rotate. Now you don't need to do this under any load, you don't need to carry any weights or anything. You can apply whatever amount of load you want to using, you know, the forces of your own body. So that's what I tend to do, and I just tend to do about 5 to 10 reps of each one on each side, and that gets me feel nice and strong and nice and secure until I'm happy with it and ready to go. Then I'll drop down into some press ups. So if you can't do press ups yet, you can obviously do them on your knees, as I'll show you in a second. But what I do is I'll go into some normal press ups and then I'll just lean over slightly more to one side, slightly more to the other side, starting to put a bit more load through one side, and then just, yeah, loading up that shoulder, loading up the pec, making sure it feels nice and secure and ready to go. Then I'll grab the band, and if you don't have one of these, you need to grab yourself a band. If you're a beginner, maybe the red one is the right amount of resistance for you. If you go single thickness, that's what I started with. I now do it with double thickness, and I do some rear delt pull aparts. So this is going to get the rear delts firing and activated. Whether I'm doing push or pull, I'll be activating my rear delts because they're useful either way. And also, yeah, gets a bit of the mid trap activated as well, just wakes the back up. And then I'll bring the band all the way behind my head, so all the way behind my head to touch my bum, and then right in front of me again. And this is going to give you a lovely stretch through the pec and through the front delt as well. Yeah, mainly under the armpits. Try this, it feels fantastic. Obviously you're not holding anything isometrically, you're not overstretching the muscle prior to a workout, but you're just doing a nice fluid movement stretch, and it gets the pec warmed up and it gets the joints and ligaments in the area warmed up as well. Then finally, if I'm doing a push workout, this is the last thing that I'll do, and I'll just wake up the long head of the tricep. So doing the equivalent of an overhead tricep extension, just with a band, just to get that long head of the tricep firing as well before we get started. And that's everything that I'll do before I'm going into a push workout. So my rotator cuffs are warmed up, my delts are warmed up, my pecs warmed up, and I feel nice and secure. I can go straight into some working sets, maybe 1 or 2 warm-ups, and then straight into working sets. Then if I'm doing a pull workout, this is the one nuance that I'll add this in as well, and this is just going to be waking up the back even further. So the first exercise I do, I attach the band to something stationary, about, I guess, chest height away from you, and I'll do some lat pullovers. So this is exactly the same functionally as a lat pullover. and what you're doing is just stretching out the lat at the bottom and then contracting it at the top, and you're going to be flooding it with blood, warming the muscle up. And this is fantastic for increasing your strength once you go into pull-ups. Obviously, you know how many pull-ups you can do now, if you can do any. If you go and do this to pre-activate the lat before you go into pull-ups, you'll feel so much sharper and so much stronger. Then I'll do some vertical pulls, so like the equivalent of a pull down, by just, again, moving those muscles, using a bit more of the rear delt, using the bicep now, and using the lat even more, contracting it. And then I'll go into a horizontal pull, so just standing upright and then doing the same thing again, properly stretching out the back, stretching out the traps, and then contracting the back again. And I'll do this for both sides, typically about 5 to 10 reps of each of those 3 movements that I just described. And that's us done. If you follow that like for like, you'll feel so much fresher going into a workout. So give that a try, add bits of that into your warm-up routine if you're not doing some of that yet, and hopefully it's been very useful for you. And if you've not seen my lower body warm-up and mobility routine, I'll link that in the description as well, posted last week. Go and have a look at that. Fantastic for getting you prepped for a heavy leg session. If you found that useful, drop me a comment, anything you want, give me a like as well, and please subscribe, because there's going to be a lot more helpful tips and tricks on the way. Thank you very much, guys. I'll see you next time.